Yeah, most of us did not start with the giant robots, so we kind of worked our way into this insanity.
I'd like to talk about my first costume.
TransCostumers is a website that it's one of our comprehensive websites that pools all of our knowledge together into one. We're a big helping group that likes to do these kinds of things and likes to share with you guys how we made them and potentially how you can make your costume better. And we pretty much are able to help almost every step of the way, as long as you show pictures, and we can help from the other side of the computer screen just about as best as possible. TransCostumers has been open since 2008. I have been doing robot costuming since right about then. I've been thinking about it since 2007. My costumes are here, her costumes are here, her costumes are there. So everybody will be able to talk about their individual costumes.
So the title of our panel is Giant Robot Costumes. How do you do that? Because our focus is going to be not so much on what we've done, but more so on, hey, you guys want to get into it. And so this is all the stuff that we would have loved to have known when we were starting out. Because there's a lot of just little things that when you're doing it, you're like, oh, I wish I would have thought to, have someone help me put this on, or walk around carrying the stuff. So that's kind of the point of this, is we want to try and help y'all to get into it and have fewer stumbling blocks.
All right, so this is me. I go by Talon Force. It sounds lame, I know. On the message board, my real name is Vanessa. Hi. And so, looking at the costumes I've made there, the most recent of which is in the upper right left-hand corner, the DeLorean time machine, which this helmet here, she goes by the name Corona. This one I built as a thesis project for my final year in theater production at Ryerson University, got an A+. And I actually hadn't finished the thing by the time it was due, and so I continued working on it for a further 4 months, so in all 8 months of work plus at least $600 went into this thing, and it actually does transform. As you can see, second photo from the right on the top, and top one is the car mode, robot mode, bottom is the car mode. I have it with me, you'll see it later. Optimus Prime I made in 2011. That one took considerably less time, considerably less money. I did it on a hardcore budget of $83. I budgeted for 100, came in under, so I was really happy. Did that one in about a month. Black Arachnia, that one I made in 2009. That one I brought with me to San Diego Comic-Con, and all of us met up at that. We'll get to that a little later. And that one was about 3 months of work, around $200. Jazz was a commission for a friend. That one was about $150. I did that in 3 weeks. That one is pretty much destroyed, as my friend has told me.
Oh.
And Bumblebee was the very first one I made. That was in 2008, and that's the very first time I really got into the TV show, apart from Beast Wars when I was a kid, and decided I want to make a robot costume, because previously I'd been costuming at other conventions, doing different things, and making that leap from fabric costume to plastic robot or metal robot, whatever you're making out of, it's kind of difficult. That one took me 5 months of work. The helmet from it, I don't wear it anymore because it's uncomfortable, and I would love to redo it, knowing all the things that I've gathered over the years of doing these costumes and taking from that and saying, okay, I'm going to improve upon this and go with that. So overall, as you can see there, my costumes are very light, except for Bumblebee, because I have real rubber tires, real steel rims on those, so it makes it very, very heavy, and I don't want to wear it anymore.
My name is Mirai. I also go by, obviously my real name is Amber, but Mirai Baby is my general hashtag for most of the internet things that I'm a part of. I've been costuming since 2008. The first time I made any kind of costume Transformers-wise was the Jazz helmet, which is up in the right-hand corner. That is actually made of I'm retarded.
It's made from insulation foam and covered in fiberglass.
Insulation foam, fiberglass, Bondo, and real actual car paint. Somebody that had an auto body shop. I'm not awake yet, clearly. somebody who had an auto body shop allowed me to use his shop and allowed me to use his knowledge, because I didn't know anything about fiberglass. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try and see if something works. And the jazz helmet, unfortunately, that was during a kind of a difficult time for me, so the costume never got finished. I still have the helmet, that is the only completed piece. The rest of it actually went in the trash, which is kind of upsetting, but at 40 plus 50, 60, 70 pounds, you don't want to wear costumes that heavy, ever. So that one unfortunately got scrapped. My next project after that was Lockdown, which is the human Lockdown and the Lockdown legs in those pictures. In the very beginning, I tried the fiberglass, didn't like it. Then I went with this lovely woman's technique, which is stretching spandex over craft foam pieces, and that was how I started experimenting with Lockdown, then traveled over to Breakdown. He is my current only completed costume. I actually ended up throwing away Lockdown because it was just, he's not a really good costume. It didn't turn out right, so I'm hoping to restart that process. And then the Skyquake helmet was in the BotCon 2013 art contest, which was cool because I get to, show it off and things like that. And it's another one of those, I really wanted to build something, so I built that.
And then I'm Velocity. If you go on Twitter, I'm All Roads Home. If you go on TFW, I'm Vela because Velocity everywhere is taken. I started robot costuming in 2008 with that RC on the far corner. Yes, there was a second RC because I made a new one. Animated RC is my favorite Transformers character pretty much ever. So I wanted to do it right because there were many issues with the original one. I also did Dragster, mainly because, hey, I'll be at that BotCon and I have that pattern already and I got 2 weeks, so why not? Yeah. That was intense. I've done a whole gamut of Transformery kind of costumes. I've done the much more curved and easier to move around and animated stuff. I've done some bulky G1 stuff there with tracks, and then obviously I've got my knockout with my shiny spandex and such. Got a human former, and then I've been exploring other types of robots as well. As you can see with Edie there in the corner, she's my most recent. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish on giant robots. It's easier in some ways, mainly to put on, and it's more difficult in other ways in how to build it just because there's a lot less intolerances. When you're doing boxes or something bulky, you can kind of mess up and it'll still zip up. For the most part, I try and go with things that I can do within 3 months, and I also have to make sure that I can move it. I move a lot, so I have to make sure it can compress down. Yeah.
So the design process, this is always the first part. Designing, coming up with your sketches beforehand, doing mock-ups. It's basically the bones, the skeleton of your making your costume. So we've got your sketches there? Yeah.
We've got both
Some
Amber and I have done sketches for Knockout. She did it for someone else, and obviously I did it for myself. And we included sketches for the chest piece that we both did, just to show that there are different ways that you can do this. I like to think in layers, so you'll see kind of a progression on how I'm going to put it together, mainly because I'm forgetful. So if I think of something like, oh my gosh, that'll work really great, I write it down or I sketch it out, because otherwise I'm going to forget it. And then
well, with mine, it's I just draw generally every single angle of the costume that I possibly can, front, side, and back, staring at all of the screen caps, all of the screen caps that I was able to get from the show, watching every single episode. Literally, if you can get every single bit of detail from these costumes, get it. Even if you think that you're not going to build that particular design piece, get it, because you might need it in the end. You might say, oh, I really want to build that. Now I wish I'd taken pictures of it. At least then you have it and it's in your database. Definitely want to take as many screen caps from that if you can, from sometimes you can even go off of, say, fan art. But you have to really understand the difference between official art and fan art, because there is a difference. People do draw things differently. So if you're trying to go off, say, if I was making Optimus Prime in Alex Milne art style, super detailed, really pretty, but I'm not going to jump from his art style to, say, Matt Moylan's. You know, that's completely different. You really want to be able to get a certain base for this is what I want to make, and I'm not going to deviate from said design. So, how robot do you want to be? There are tons of different ways to make this work. We have all of the robot costumes up here, but there are some human formers that we have seen outside. They're still a little more common than the larger suits, but these are making ground and really appearing, and that's one of my favorite parts, is to see how well the costuming side of this evolves and how far we can really go with it. And that's, even in the human formers, some of them are incredibly creative. The human former Whirl that was out here yesterday.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh.
She was amazing. And it was like, you could tell who it was immediately, almost immediately you could tell who it was right off the bat. And that's one of the cool things, is that it's not a robot costume, but you can easily see who they're trying to be.
It's also good to help get into it, because going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a giant robot, can be kind of terrifying. Whereas if you start with a human form, well, I'll do some gauntlets, maybe a visor, and so you can work into it. Like when I got into this, I didn't start out just building giant robots. I used similar techniques to do partial kind of stuff first. It was a Transformers ring, hence no pictures, but working into it really helps build confidence, and so then it's a lot more enjoyable, because you're like, oh, I got this. I've done really bulky things that I've attached to my legs before, so now I'm just adding really bulky things I'm attaching to my shoulders too. So it helps to get into it if you are nervous. And then also, like, we still do human formers, even though we also do like the big old shiny robots too, just because it's fun. One of the major concerns you'll actually run into that you probably aren't going to be thinking about when you start out is durability. These things have a life, and it's often a lot shorter than you really want it to be. Even with fiberglass, you'll scratch it up, and so then eventually you'll have to sand it down and paint it, or sometimes it'll crack, as I learned the hard way. But there are certain things that wear a lot faster than others. Joints have that issue. Anything that's overlapping and rubbing on, it's going to get just pressure and friction, which is going to wear it out faster. And then things that don't wear out as fast are static pieces. If it's just sitting on your head and you're not touching it, it's going to last a lot longer than other pieces, just because it's not getting wear. It's just sitting there. And then hard pieces tend to last longer than foam pieces or just softer pieces, just because they tend to be something that doesn't move. Things that move are what wear out the fastest.
And now for the weight of the costume. You definitely want it to be light, saying the heavier it is, the more tiring it'll be, because you're not used to carrying around like 20, 30, if not more pounds on your person. So it's like gaining a whole lot of weight right away, and you're like, oh, I'm not used to this. And so by the end of the day, you're going to be a puddle of goo on the floor. So there's the weight issue, there's the sight line. So like how helpless are you going to be in this costume? With the helmets I've made, Bumblebee is the most difficult to see out of, because it's full encasing helmet and it's really cracky lenses. This is the very first one I made, so it's forgivable to be stupid. Because with that one, I can't see below a certain line, and they also have sight issues, and so you don't know how big you are in these things either if you got one that isn't like slick to your body. So you're gonna smack a few people in the head maybe if they're not watching out for you and you're not watching out for them because you can't see them. So you might need a spotter with you. That's always very handy, especially as when you're walking around and if you need to take a break, things like that. So spotters, regardless of how dressed up you are, you should want one at least. at least bring a friend with you. And so your base layer, like wicking, I mean, you get hot in these things. The very first base layer I wore with my costumes was actually thermal underwear that was meant for winter sports, and so I was dripping in sweat by the end of the day going, why am I doing this? And recently I got myself one of those morph suits. It's very much worth, I don't know where else they're available. I paid $80 for mine from Malabar, so they're well worth it. They're very comfortable, breathable, and not itchy unless you're a naturally itchy person. I don't know. And so that's the picture there. That's she's the founder of the website, right?
Yeah.
That's Pilot, and look at the size of her foot compared to her head. It's enormous, and you should have seen her in this thing, like this huge costume, this tiny woman wearing it. So proportions. It's fun to see how it works out for you.
With more build concerns, once you start figuring out, okay, here's my design, then you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? For me, I work in an apartment. I work in kitchens, almost exclusively kitchens and dining rooms. That's my most recent kitchen, and I did fiberglassing. As you can see next to the staff that's kind of sticking out of the box, I have part of knockout because I'm doing this in a kitchen. I'm doing all of my fiberglass in one run, so I have, I think, 3 different costumes with fiberglass pieces that needed work, and so I'm like, I'm just going to have pieces sitting out, and I will do fiberglass, and then I can open all the windows and leave the apartment for a week. But you really have to consider what kind of workspace you have. If you're sharing like a dining room with the rest of your family, then you really shouldn't just leave it a complete wreck for like 3 months while you're working your costume. It's a really nice thing to clean up every night. So that way people aren't coming in and going, oh hey, I wanted to eat breakfast here, but I guess I can't. Or stepping on pins and such. There are limitations just to where you're going to be. Honestly, most people don't fiberglass in their apartment just because it's not really smart. It's not pleasant.
It's not safe.
No, it's safe. You open every window, every door.
Personal protection equipment.
Yeah.
Ventilation.
Keep the pets away.
Yeah, so you just have to think about how, and if you don't have just much space to begin with, like if you just have a kitchen table, then getting giant insulation foam sheets, which are like 6 feet by 4 feet, won't really work out because you may not be able to fit it through your door. And also on materials, make sure you always buy at least a little bit extra because you don't think you're going to need it until you accidentally cut out a piece that isn't quite the right shape, and so you think, well, now you need to cut another one. As we learned the night before Comic-Con.
Last minute costuming is always fun.
But yeah, so always try and buy extra of your materials, and if nothing else, you can reuse it for other costumes if you don't end up using it for your present costume. Parts of Knockout ended up going into my Edie costume because like, oh, I have all this silver and pewter spandex. That's perfect. I can reuse it, so I didn't even have to order anymore.
Pre-wear stuff. This is always fun. Definitely want to, when you have a spotter or when you have someone helping them, inform them beforehand what they're doing and inform them kind of during their process, work them through it. Like, don't yell at them because they're handling your costume piece wrong, because that's a really good way to lose your spotter. Pre-wear, you just want to make sure that you do test wears at home while you're building it. There are constant times when I'm building a suit that I have to put it on myself to make sure it fits or to make sure that I can still walk, that I can still bend to my knees. As it stands, Breakdown's I can only get like a 45-degree angle out of my leg. So I can't sit down at all. And that is one of the things that we kind of strive for, unless you're super comfortable on your feet, in comfortable shoes in these costumes, you really don't want to stand all day. I'm really comfortable in Breakdown to the point where I can pretty much do it. I don't much like to, but I can wear the costume from 9 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. I can go all day long. This one does high heels, and I still don't understand it.
Well, because you gotta be taller robots.
Yeah, she does.
And it's Knockout. He's gotta have little pointy feet, and you can't do that with like regular sized human feet. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, so she's got high heels, and she's got the way that she actually built Knockout is her legs kind of have to be bent
Yeah.
at all points, so she can't actually lock her legs to stand up straight.
But I can sit, unlike someone here.
She can sit. Unfortunately, that means that she can only be in costume for a few hours every day, and then she gets just exhausted. She can't do it anymore. So that's one of the really good things is to have spotters and make sure that they know what you're doing and make sure that you know what your costume does at all points in time. One of the big things is travel, how you will be wearing your costume, how you will be carrying your costume from the car to the convention to some other event, how you're going to get where you're going. With breakdown, for the majority of it, I can walk pretty fast in breakdown, so I'm okay. She kind of has to do this little shuffle shimmy.
Basically, imagine a cowboy, and you're doing the cowboy walk, but in high heels and kind of leaning forward. That's how Knockout walks. That's
She really,
so I can walk. It's just it's a mosey.
yeah.
It's a mosey. So I tend to like to put him on at the convention center, where she likes to put on breakdown like right next to the car, or off-site and then go on-site.
And then Vanessa, I believe you can walk fairly well in all
Oh
the
yeah,
costumes.
yeah. Blank right there is just the high heels, which it's just wearing high heels over socks, so it's about as uncomfortable as high heels get. Men, if you want to find out how comfortable it is, go ahead. You get cheap pairs from Goodwill. All of my costumes now have the built-in shoe into the actual feet, like Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. And well, Bumblebee's not that comfortable to wear, as I already said, but Prime, with the knees on that one, for whatever reason, I can't stand too long in it. Something about moving the knees, it's difficult to stand for a while, but I can sit so easily as Prime. I can lie down, I was squeezed into one of those brown chairs out in the front lobby eating a sandwich yesterday, and I was comfy. And originally I had big boot-like feet for the DeLorean costume like Optimus Prime's, but I actually had to change that up because I put the costume with the DeLorean Club in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Toronto this year, and I was like, oh, I can't walk 5 kilometers in those boots, and so it's now just a pair of painted black shoes. So a little bit of cheating, a little bit of artistic difference just for that comfort of wearing it. And admittedly, I will purposely design my costumes more for comfort than for accuracy, though I try to get as best as I can with artistic license. One major thing is bathroom breaks. For, well, the morph suit I wear for all of them, except for Arachnia, which has her own suit, but they're all onesies. So you need to know how quickly can you get out of the costume so that in case, like, oh, I don't want to have an accident, and if you don't want to wear adult diapers, then you have to consider that into your planning.
Yeah, I tend to pair leggings with leotards for most of my robot costuming because it's a little easier to, like, well, I don't want to get completely out of costume, but I really got to pee. I have a small bladder. I need it. And so that's why I purposefully chose that design, so that way, hey, I don't have to get completely out of costume, because for RC, I would have to be completely out of everything if it was just one piece underneath, which is a pain in the butt, especially with the first one, because that just tie it underneath for the chest instead of buckles, because, it's brilliant, and I'll just use ribbon and tie it, and yeah, so, whatever.
I don't go pee ever. When I wear my costumes, because I sweat so much, and usually I wear the costumes obviously for conventions, which are in the summertime, which is a fantastic time to wear these big rigs that don't breathe. I actually keep myself at that slightly dangerous dehydration level. I suck down water like crazy, but I don't use the restroom until after I'm done, so I don't have to get out of the costume. Because I do, just like pretty much everybody else, when you need to do your business, you got to get out of these costumes to be able to get into one of those bathroom stalls. So, you got to take everything off and then get everything all set up and then put everything back on when you're done. And it's just like, why bother? That's a hassle. I don't pee like ever.
So real science, if you don't want to pee, just sweat a lot.
Yes,
so
it
make
is.
it as hot as possible. But drink water so you don't die.
With wear, you're going to be exhausted by the end of it. You're going to be exhausted, you're going to sweat a lot, you're going to be a little gross. It's okay to sit down and like take off your helmet and have a snack, or just have a rest. It happens. Once you get comfortable with the idea of like, oh well, I got to take a break, but I want to get a costume. You can totally extend how long you can be in costume, which is nice. I personally like drinking Gatorade over water myself, just because I do sweat a lot, and you lose more than water with sweat. But I also keep a bottle of Gatorade for after wear, at which point I get into something way more comfortable and down an entire bottle of Gatorade and feel much better. And then you also have to consider, do you need a spotter or helper? I try and make most of my costumes so I don't need one. It's nice to have, but I don't necessarily absolutely have to have one. I have a friend who has a Gurren costume. He absolutely positively has to have 2 people to help him at all times. And so he ran into the issue of he wanted to wear his costume when everyone else in our group was doing another photo shoot for a completely different series, so we couldn't help him. And so he was rather displeased that convention weekend. So if you have any concerns about possibly wearing your costume when other people don't want to help you, consider trying to make it so you don't need a spotter. There are ways to make it so that way that's totally possible. Considering the design to have front closures, make sure you have really good vision, and making sure that you actually can move and take off your helmet and vaguely sit down and such. But that's just something you have to consider in the design process, is what do you want out of your costume? Do you want to be able to move around and jump around and like, you know, party, or do you want to just be a really amazing giant robot who's just standing there being awesome? There's nothing wrong with either of those options. It's just what you want.
It is really fun to just stand there still as a statue, and then people will come by, and then you go, what? I made several people scream ahead of me. It was pretty fun. The fun part. This has been a hot debate lately, the whole like asking permission for photos and the whole like accusations of fake geek gamer girls, whatever. It's a whole other thing. I'm not going to get too deeply into it, but it does relate to this and that. You are allowed to say no to pictures, hugs, whatever. I mean, some people definitely do not want to have their photo taken when they're on break, and it's difficult to hide away from the adoring public when you're at a convention because there's just hallways everywhere, and the only private room you have is your own hotel room, and do you really want to travel back and forth in costume when you just want to grab a sandwich? So most people tend to be polite and say, oh, can I have a picture? I mean, you'll have the people walking 30 feet away going, click, and then run away. Thanks. We've all had our experiences of people going like, oh, I'm gonna take a picture. I did not give you permission for that. Please do not put it on the internet. I started like a 3-page flame war once and didn't even know it was there until I came back and said, oh my God, these people are gonna lynch this poor guy. Whole different story. And so, this is your photo here.
Yes, I have all sorts of exciting stories of creepy people at conventions being creepy. This one was my first BotCon. I was going to get in line for the Weird Al autograph.
I was there. I saw it.
Yeah. And so this guy asked for a picture, and I'm like, okay, sure, pictures, yay. And so he puts his arm like around my shoulders, kind of. And I'm like, okay, whatever, people do that. And so the guy who's taking the picture counts down, and then all of a sudden he's got me dipped, so I'm no longer stable on my feet, so I can't actually, get away. And then this happens. And luckily, the whole crowd, because it was right by the line for the Weird Al Yankovic signing, so there was a lot of people. It got silent, and it was made very clear to the dude, not cool. And the hilarious thing is, if he had said, hey, I love RC, would you mind if we posed acting like we were kissing? Because the hilarious thing is, I would have said yes. I'd just give me some warning. I've also had other fun experiences. I just had one at Comic-Con. I was in Pinkberry, And coming off the high of someone going, oh my god, your costume's amazing, let me buy your pinkberry for you. It's frozen yogurt, by the way, if you don't know what a pinkberry is. Let me buy your frozen yogurt for you, because your costume's just amazing. I'm like, okay, thanks, I feel cool. And so then I sit down, I'm eating my frozen yogurt and texting, and there's this guy outside the frozen yogurt place just creepily staring in with his camera. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's just looking through pictures. Go back about the business, look up, no, he's still there, no, he's recording me, okay, we'll keep texting. And so then the employees at the frozen yogurt place are like, yeah, so that guy, he's totally recording you, or, that's not cool. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. And if he would just come in and ask for a picture or whatever, I would completely give it to him, except now he's being a creeper, so nah. And so then 4 minutes later, after making that comment, he finally comes and he's like, oh, hey, can I get a picture? I'm like, no, you can't. You got plenty, dude. I saw you creeping. You know, I can see the little record light on your camera. But yeah, so just because you're wearing a costume does not mean that you are their monkey to dance, you know. You are allowed to say no. If you feel threatened, find con security. It is what they're there for. If you see someone being harassed and you feel comfortable to step in, do it. We appreciate it. I've had people step in before when things have gotten weird, and I've always really appreciated it because half the time when it's happening, you're going, what's going on? What? Huh? And so you don't quite have instantaneous reaction. You don't punch someone, unfortunately. So this is supposed to, yeah.
Oops, I didn't see you.
This is supposed to be fun. Try and keep it fun. If you're not having fun, then consider, you know, just taking up the costume for a day and starting again another day.
We're running a little up on time.
Oh.
I don't remember how many slides are left. But another one of our weird things, you really want to make sure that you know, that your spotter knows what you're capable of doing, your vision, your mobility, how fast you can move, and what they need to do in case of an emergency, in case, holy crap, I have to pee. Or in my case, I bounced around too much and now I think something's broken, please get this off me. This little girl was a sport, and she allowed me to, and she hung out with Knockout and I for a good half hour, must have been, and was all over us. And there's a point in my costume where I can't see below, like right about here, everything down. So little kids I can't generally see like really close to me unless I'm kind of bent and kind of hunched over. So I was thinking she was coming in for like a hug, and I tried to give her, and that's kind of what turned out.
And what you don't realize is she was standing there holding this position, both of them were, for a good like 5 to 10 seconds. Like just no one saying anything, just watching it happen. It was great.
I was like, I think you want a hug, I'm not sure. Make sure your spotter also knows. If you do have a spotter, give them something of yours, give them a backpack, a bag, something to carry that has emergency cosplay supplies, being hot glue sticks, hot glue gun, duct tape, maybe a needle and thread if you need it, something like that. Make sure that they have your water, their snacks, your cooling towels if you need it, your convention badge. Some conventions will allow your spotter to hold your badge and to hold your stuff. Other conventions will require the costumer to wear the badge themselves. We have a couple of costumers who have actually taped their badge onto their costume so they don't lose it. But definitely make sure that when you give your spotter this backpack that you have them go through it, have them get familiar with the bag and know where things are, so when you say, hey, I need my water, they know what bag to get it, they know what pocket to get into.
Transport, oh my gosh, it's always exciting. Do you want to take her?
Sure. Well, it all depends on where you're going and how you're getting there. So the only time I've traveled, apart from taking the car during a convention, was San Diego Comic-Con. I brought Black Arachnia with me for that. Unfortunately, she fit in my luggage just fine, and there wasn't a lot of room for anything else, but I didn't buy any souvenirs. I just spent money on a VIP ticket for a battlesmith thing. That's beside the point. I digress. So that was easy enough for me. Like I purposely had to make a costume that fit nicely because I did want to meet up with the other TransCostumers so that we could all do a group photo. Bumblebee was the only other costume I had completed at the time, and there was just no way I would have gotten him there without having to ship him ahead of time. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm too worried about that. But some people do ship by like UPS or however you did it. So you can travel by car, and it says be careful of the heat and the sun. I mean, these materials, if some packages of glue say, you might say like, oh, store between temperatures of this and this, and if your car gets up to 1,000,000 degrees out in the hot sun, then your costume is done. And that's what can you do? So you gotta be careful of that. For shipping, like packing peanuts is a real good idea. And oh, what else? You did some special shipping with your stuff.
Yeah, well, I think I've done everything on this list. I have shipped RC 1.0, got her own box when I moved because there was no way I could fit it in my little car. And then I've done check luggage. That's the only thing I haven't done. But I've done carry-on luggage, and then I've done cabin seat baggage, which is Knockout got its own seat on the Flight to Comic-Con. That's that corner picture where you can see kind of this muslin bag shoved into an airplane seat. That's that. Which was its own special experience. TSA was
Not pleased.
but once they understood that I wasn't trying to like, I don't know, blow up planes. Yeah, no, it's like seriously, it's robots, and I had other costumes for Comic-Con, so it's like it's two robots and Yuna. Like seriously, there's nothing in here. Well, because I had a broom handle for one of the props for one of my costumes, and they're like, "Oh, well, you might hurt someone." Like, it's a broom.
If I can get this on a plane, anybody can get anything on.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, but with that, if you ever do cabin seat baggage or carry on with like weird stuff, just be polite, because at the same time that I'm sitting there practically being frisked for bringing, the giant shiny robots. They were really polite to me, and it was very professionally done. And then there was a chick who was completely freaking out next to me, and who then got taken to secondary screening. And she didn't even have any giant robots. She just got pulled aside for, secondary searching. But yeah, and then with cars, as you can see, sometimes Tetrising can be a little interesting.
Speaking on Tetrising, we drove 36 hours to be here. We came from San Diego, California, so we managed to get these two costumes. Breakdown is huge, Knockout not so much. But we managed to get the costumes, a couple of toys from San Diego Comic-Con, and then all of our luggage up here in a bigger car than I was expecting, but we managed to make it work, and that was kind of the operative point. But as long as you can Tetris things right, I mean, you can get the costumes where you need them to be.
It's all just about figuring out more creative solutions. You're going to be making creative solutions for making the costumes, and then you never stop because, how am I going to get this to this place? Well, I guess I will have to, I think I can fit the forearm and the leg, and I can fit the bodysuit and the head, that kind
You
of
get
stuff.
really creative with that kind of thing, really quick.
I was just gonna, one thing we do is whenever we have to go across the border, is we take photographs, screenshots from what we're recreating from whatever media is, like a screenshot from the movie Aliens, like what we do, and a picture of us wearing stuff. So for those who still don't get the idea, oh, you're doing this. And we put that in with the luggage, so it's right on top of either items people might find. Like, I put the cast photo and me in this costume right next to the pulse blaster. So and they go, oh, what are you? Oh. So
Nice, I like it.
That's a smart idea.
With packing, I think we all have stories of, I forgot a head. Or I forgot the entirety of RC's backplate. But I now use Evernote and have lists. I just have lists for each costume under a cosplay folder. So I'm like, I want to take Knockout to a convention. Okay, what? All right, head, check. Leg, check. Other leg, check. And every time I take anything anywhere, it's like, okay, well, now I'm to the place where I'm staying for the convention. All right, now I'm taking the costume to the convention center. pull out the list again, make sure I have everything so that way I don't forget my head. This was just last week, so I'm still giving her some shade for it.
Luckily, my house was only 20 minutes away, so it was just, you know, hopping onto the trolley and going to get it.
Yeah. With packing, try and make sure that you do support pieces. Just because we'll get more into this into storage, but if you like have things bent, then you're gonna develop dents, or you'll get like marks on your finish, and so then you have to either repair it or make something completely new. So you don't want to get there and find, oh hey, I've completely lost my costume. Ha. Storage. Yeah.
Storage. Where are you gonna put it after you're finished with it? In the closet, in the basement. There are a lot of Transformer bits in my basement right now, and my parents are like, can you please get rid of those? So those will be coming with me when I move out. You want it away from the light so that it doesn't fade. It's getting dusty. My black racking I've had all of these on display in my own bedroom for just a little while after, and they're incredibly dusty. I just cannot get rid of the dust on the head on this one because it got stuck to the Mod Podge, so I'll be replacing this anyway, so it's allowed to get dirty right now. But yeah, you don't want to just smush it in there because it is going to get damaged if you just haphazardly toss it into a closet and just forget about it for several weeks. And hell, my Lauren was sitting in the living room since St. Patrick's Day. It's always messy there. You just want to make sure that it stays nice for the next time you wear it, or if you're like, no, this is done, it's crap, it's going in the garbage, then fine, just chuck it in the garbage, no big deal. It's something, it's a point of pride that you want to hold on to for a while if you put a lot of work into it, so you don't want to just damage it and putting it away. Big Rubbermaid bins are really good, I find. Plastic bags, big garbage bags is what I keep my feet in.
Although,
what else?
With that, you want to make sure that it's not completely airtight, though. I have curatorial training, so this is my jam. But yeah, you don't want to ever do like airtight, just because you'll risk mold, you'll risk water damage, because you'll get condensation. I have a robot closet. It's robots and winter coats, and I think maybe Christmas ornaments. But yeah, no, I have a robot closet because it keeps it out of the light. It's not airtight, so you get a little bit of airflow, and it also won't get musty because, you know, robots. It keeps most of the dust out because Texas is stupid dusty. Oh my god. And how I Tetris them in there, make sure that I have support. Like you can kind of see RC's back cable, the top of ledge part is resting on a banker's box, so that way it has some support. And with Knockout's chest, there's like a nail over the door frame, so that way it can hang. That way the bottom doesn't get creased at all. So those are just things you kind of need to think about. Normally, this is a much more chill experience than final building or anything or packing, just because you can take your time. So just take your time and try and figure out a spot and make it work.
Repairs, those are always fun. You want to make sure that when you pull out a costume from storage, when you're getting ready for a convention, you want to check over the costume. That is one of the main points where all of a sudden you get to the convention and you don't have your repair materials, something's ripped, something's broken, and now you can't wear the costume. And that's the most devastating thing in the world. Or if you happen to get a child that really, really, really badly loves your costume and really wants a hug, so he comes over and tackles you, that's not good. But you definitely want to make sure that you check the costume before the convention, and then check it immediately after the convention for wear and tear. Breakdown, because it was immediately, we were on the road on Monday morning after Comic-Con, so I didn't get a chance to build or repair breakdown. So he's actually got some issues from Comic-Con that I still haven't bothered to fix. While you're at the convention, replacement pieces aren't horribly necessary, but it is a very good idea to have things that you know are going to tear and you know or might have problems. It's always good to have it on hand just in case. And you want to make sure that especially after travel, that you actually work on repairing it. Unfortunately, the sombrero picture, I was at a convention in Texas, and during the first day of wear, he's actually, the faceplate in this costume, the faceplate in this costume can actually come off completely, because it's just Velcro. So, but there's a one Velcro up near the top where it actually came off. So the faceplate was drooped, and unfortunately, they had the photographers for the local newspaper that day, and so the two pictures that they have in the newspaper of me are with the faceplate that's drooped, and it's like his face is like his mouth is tucked down into the chin plate, and it's just it looks horrible. And to me, it's just like, oh god, what happened? What the hell? And it was like not whatsoever. The other picture there is a breakdown chest plate, and that actually ripped during Comic-Con, and that was just me sitting down for a day, and was just like, I need to repair this one at least before we come up here. So that was just a day of, I lined it with more craft foam and things like that. And a little bit later, once we're finished here, you guys can actually come up and you can look at all these pieces and you can see how they're constructed. If you really want to check it out, the inside of Breakdown looks terrible. It really does. The inside of all of these pieces of mine look.
What's on the outside?
Yeah, you can see how well they're handmade.
With redesign, after you wear it, you'll realize, oh my gosh, that is just, I keep hitting things, or I can't put my arms down, or so if something's not working, or if you just wear the costume out and you keep wearing it out, like if you can only wear a piece for one show or one outing, generally you're going to want to try and redesign that to be a little more durable. So maybe try heavier material, or try fiberglass on the inside. Just so that way, hopefully you can get more wear out of it, because you've spent all this time making it, so you might as well get as much wear out of it as possible. Okay. And that concludes our presentation. I think we have a little bit of time left. I can't see your fingers. Okay, awesome. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can either ask the microphone. If you have specific costuming questions, we are happy to basically consult. That's kind of why we did a very basic intro, because we figured we could go into how to construct on our individual methods and just eat up time, and then no one wants to know how to do that specific thing. So if anyone wants to know how I do fabric and foam and stuff, or about fiberglassing, just head on up to the microphone and give us a shot. Or you can just sit at your seats and raise your hand.
I can't get up, so
Okay.
what I was gonna say is, this is great. I think I'm going full circle, steal some ideas, and remember we found some ideas before. One thing that we all fall in the trap of in costuming, it depends on the degree. If it doesn't look right, let it go. Because sometimes, for example, those masks look fantastic, but when you're working on them face to face, it's like, well, it's like this body armor. There's so much about this that I hate because of just the way it's built, that I could have done better, or there's damage to it. But when you're standing 10 feet away, it still looks great. It's still movie quality, and that's the same trap that we all fall into. So don't sweat the petty things, and don't pet the sweaty things.
You are your worst critic, and that's generally it's the same with any art form, and this is very much an art form. This is very much a 3-month-long, $400 art form.
That's cheap.
Yes, this breakdown is actually really cheap. He ended up being $378, I think, when it was all said and done. So that's actually relatively cheap. One thing I actually forgot to mention, I'm sorry. I have business cards up here that actually have our website on them. So if you'd like to come and join our forum, please come up and grab a business card at the end of the show, and And we will be very much, wrong wording. We will be very pleased to show you the works and then show you how this is done. Okay.
Okay, so I guess if you guys had all the time and resources you need, what would be your next costumes?
Next rings.
Well, if I could do anything, it would be to do a brand new Yuna of all things, and but then have a companion costume of one of the mechs from Final Fantasy X, one of her Aeon summons, because there's some really mechanical looking ones. I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that, but then I'd have to find someone who I could like, hey, where you don't live near me anymore.
Well, that's
You don't-
not my fault.
No, that's your fault. That's their fault. But yeah, no, if I could do anything, that would be it. Or to do a brand new tracks, because I only got one convention and he wasn't very good. And he's my favorite, so like I would like to do right by him.
I would do another transforming one. With all the others that I've made, pretty much the number one question was, can you transform? And I'm like, no. And so I'm like, fine, I'm gonna build one that transforms, screw you. And I made one, and it transforms, and I'm happy with the way it turned out, but I would love that I could, if I had the time, the money, the resources, like if I had a sandbox mode to play in, I would make it drivable, I'd put in better speakers, it'd be like a Barbie Power Wheels kind of thing that I could drive it on, it'd be really freaking heavy, it'd be absolutely insane, but if sandbox mode existed, I would do it.
Get a front with a fridge cart.
Did you throw your spine out the first time you did it?
No, actually. I mean, the one, I knew that this would probably come up with mine, and it's pretty much all kibble. And hey, it transforms. So I'm a person, I'm not a robot. It's kibble, deal with it.
Yeah, as for me, I'm actually in the middle of doing commissions right now. So I actually offer this up as a service to other people who don't know how to do it, don't want to learn how to do it, things like that. But I've been kind of in the talks with one of my friends about doing a Wreckers theme. A friend of mine wants to do Springer, and she wants me to be her cup. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the IDW cup with the giant sidebar. Thank you.
Become a combiner.
Oh, wow.
Do it.
Devastator.
Oh,